A little girl tugged at her father's worn-out sleeve, her tiny fingers clutching the rough fabric as if it were the only thing keeping her steady in the world. Her presence was small, but the weight of her touch carried something far greater than her size. Her voice came out as a whisper, fragile, innocent yet powerful enough to shake everything around them. "Dad, I want her as my mom." The noise of the park faded into nothing, leaving only the echo of her words hanging in the air. Ayman Khan stood frozen, his breath caught somewhere between his chest and throat. His fingers tightened unconsciously around a small plastic bag of roasted peanuts. He didn't ask who she meant because deep down he already knew. He had noticed the woman long before Meher spoke. She sat quietly across the park, dressed in a simple white kurta with a soft blue dupatta resting lightly over her shoulders. Her posture was calm, composed, untouched by the chaos around her. She wasn't laughing loudly like the others, nor was she lost in her phone. She was simply there, present, observing, feeling. Ayman had allowed himself only a brief glance at her earlier. Men like him didn't look twice. Life had taught him that such luxuries came with consequences. But Meher was different because at 5 years old, she saw the world with a clarity adults often lose. She didn't see fear, past pain, or complications. She saw only what her heart understood. And right now, her heart had chosen Meher. Ayman's voice trembled slightly. "What did you just say?" She pointed again, more confident this time. "That lady, Baba." Ayman slowly turned his head, and this time he truly looked at the woman. Her book now rested closed in her lap as her gaze lifted slightly, sensing eyes on her. It wasn't attraction or curiosity, it was something quieter, deeper, like two souls recognizing shared storms. Ayman quickly looked away, his heartbeat suddenly louder than the park itself. "No, this is not for me," he muttered under his breath. "Why not?" Meher asked immediately, her innocence cutting straight through his defenses. Children always ask why because they haven't yet learned that life doesn't always answer. Ayman forced a small smile. "It doesn't work like that, Beta." Meher frowned, her tiny brows knitting together. "But why doesn't it work like that?" He didn't respond because how could he explain love, loss, and fear to a child? How could he tell her that people come with wounds and sometimes they leave forever? His chest tightened as memories dragged him back to a hospital room from 5 years ago. The smell of antiseptic, the cold white walls, and the silence that followed the final breath. "Sana?" Her name echoed in his mind as he remembered holding her lifeless hand. A newborn cried in the background while his world collapsed in silence. He had begged, prayed, and promised everything for one more moment. But life doesn't negotiate, and death never returns what it takes. "Baba?" Meher's voice pulled him back into the present. He blinked, realizing how far he had drifted. "I'm here," he said softly, even though part of him still wasn't. Meher leaned her head against his arm. She looked nice. Ayman exhaled slowly. "Yes." "She did," he admitted before he could stop himself. Meher smiled faintly, catching something in his voice, a hint of warmth she hadn't heard in a long time. It was small, but it was there. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The park slowly emptied as parents called their children home. "Let's go," Ayman said, standing up. "But Baba," Meher started to protest. "Now, Meher," he said, his voice carrying a trace of fear. She didn't argue, sensing the shift in his tone. As they walked away, her small hand tightly in his, Meher turned back one last time. The woman was still there, watching them. Their eyes met again, but this time it wasn't just a glance, it was a silent question left unanswered. Something lingered in that moment neither of them understood. That night, their small one-room house felt quieter than usual. The ceiling fan creaked slowly, and the dim yellow bulb flickered faintly. Ayman sat on the floor fixing an old radio while Meher lay beside him, drawing in her notebook. "Baba?" she called softly. "Yes," he replied without looking up. "If Amy was here, would she look like that lady?" Meher asked, her curiosity gentle but persistent. Ayman smiled faintly. She had the kindest eyes in the world. Meher thought for a moment, then said softly, "So does that lady." Ayman said nothing, because he knew she was right. Later that night, Meher fell asleep holding her notebook. Ayman gently took it from her hands, about to set it aside. But something made him pause as he looked at the drawing. 3 stick figures stood together, a tall one, a small one, and another holding both their hands. Above them was a small house and a bright sun. Eamon stared at it for a long time, feeling something unfamiliar stir inside him. It wasn't pain, not entirely, but something else. A possibility he had buried long ago was quietly trying to breathe again. Across the city, in a softly lit apartment, the same woman sat by her window. She held a cup of tea that had long gone cold, her mind replaying something she couldn't explain. A little girl's eyes filled with warmth and a man who looked like he had forgotten how to smile. "Why do I feel like I've seen them before?" she whispered softly. She tried to dismiss the thought, but it refused to leave. Back in the small house, Eamon lay awake staring at the ceiling. Meher's words echoed again and again in his mind. "I want her as my mom." He closed his eyes tightly. "No, this isn't for me," he whispered. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice responded, "What if it is?" The thought unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. The next morning, Eamon woke earlier than usual. He told himself it was just another day, but something felt different. Meher woke up unusually excited. "Baba, can we go to the park again today?" Eamon hesitated. "No. We have work," he replied, trying to keep things normal. "Please?" she asked softly, her eyes full of hope. He looked away, trying not to give in. Then she said something that made his heart stop. Maybe she'd be there again? Silence filled the room as Eamon slowly looked at her. He realized this wasn't just a passing wish, it had already taken root in her heart. If he ignored it, he wouldn't just be protecting himself. He might be breaking something inside her. After a long pause, Eamon picked up his keys. "Get ready," he said quietly. Meher's face lit up instantly. "Really?" she asked, almost unable to believe it. He nodded, but inside him, a storm had already begun. Because deep down, he knew what this could mean. As they stepped into the park once more, the air felt heavier than before. Every step carried a quiet tension. And then suddenly, Meher let go of his hand and started running straight toward the woman before Eamon could stop her. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Heavy. "Baba, who is it?" Meher asked softly, her voice already fragile from waiting too long. "I don't know," Eamon replied quietly, but something inside him whispered, "This isn't normal." He answered the call. "Hello?" For a second, there was nothing. Just silence. Then a voice, low, hurried, slightly shaken. "Is this Eamon?" His grip on the phone tightened. "Yes. Who is this?" Another pause. "Yes?" he said, his voice barely holding. "There's a woman here, Zara." The world around him blurred. "She had an accident." Silence, complete silence. The kind that screams louder than anything else. "What? What are you saying?" Eamon whispered. "She's conscious," the voice continued quickly, "but she asked for you. If anything happens, call Eamon." The phone nearly slipped from his hand. He looked at Meher, her innocent eyes, watching him, waiting. "Baba, what happened?" Eamon couldn't speak. Because how do you explain something like this? How do you tell a child? That hope might be slipping away before it even begins. He forced himself to breathe. "Stay here," he said softly. "No," Meher shook her head immediately, gripping his hand tighter. "I'm coming with you," Eamon hesitated, but then he realized. This wasn't something he could hide, not anymore. "Okay," he whispered. They left the park. This time, there was no calm walk. No quiet thoughts, just urgency. Eamon hailed a rickshaw, his hands trembling as he helped Meher inside. "City Hospital fast." The driver nodded, and the ride began. The streets blurred past them, cars honking, people moving, life continuing. As if nothing had changed, but inside Eamon, everything had. Why did she call my name? How did she even have my number? What if... He stopped himself. No, he couldn't think like that. Not again. Meher sat quietly beside him, holding his arm. "Baba," she said softly. "Yes?" "She be okay, right?" Eamon looked at her, those same eyes, full of belief, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't have the strength to lie. "I don't know," he whispered. Meher leaned her head against him. "Then we'll just stay with her." Simple, pure, sometimes. Children understand life better than adults. The rickshaw stopped. Hospital Agaya, the driver said. Eamon paid quickly, barely noticing the money leaving his hand. They stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Antiseptic, cold, familiar, too familiar. His chest tightened. Not again. Not this place, not these memories, but this time, he wasn't alone. Meher's small hand squeezed his. I'm here, she whispered. Eamon looked down at her and nodded. I know. They approached the reception. Yes? The nurse asked. I got a call about Zara. The nurse checked something, then looked up. Room 203, Eamon nodded. His legs felt heavier with every step, each stare, each breath, each second closer to something he wasn't ready for. His hand hovered over the handle. He couldn't open it, not yet. Because somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, What if you lose her too? His fingers trembled. Baba, Meher said softly. He looked at her. She smiled, a small, brave smile. Open it. Eamon took a deep breath and pushed the door. It creaked open slowly, and there she was, Zara, lying on the hospital bed, her head slightly bandaged, a bruise near her temple, her arm connected to and for, but her eyes were open. And the moment she saw them, something changed. Relief, pure relief. You came? She whispered, and then felt his chest loosen. Yes. He said softly, We came. Meher ran to her side. Are you okay? She asked, her voice trembling. Zara smiled faintly. I've been better. Does it hurt? Meher asked. A little, Meher frowned. I don't like it, Zara chuckled softly. I don't like it either. Eamon stood there, silent, watching, trying to understand something that didn't make sense. How did you... He began. Zara looked at him. I got your number, she said quietly. Iman frowned. How? Zara hesitated. Yesterday. When you were paying for the peanuts, you dropped a small paper. Eamon remembered. His shop receipt. It had your number on it, she continued. I picked it up. I don't know why. Eamon didn't respond, because deep down, he knew some things don't have logical explanations. And when the accident happened, Zara said softly, You were the only person I could think of. Silence. Heavy, emotional. Why? Eamon asked quietly. Zara looked at Meher, then back at him. Because, for the first time in a long time, she paused. I didn't feel alone. Eamon's throat tightened. Those words, I'm sorry I didn't come, she added softly. Meher shook her head quickly. It's okay. But her eyes said otherwise. I waited, she whispered. Zara's expression softened. I know. She gently touched Meher's hand. And I'm sorry, Eamon stepped closer. You should rest, he said quietly. Zara nodded. But her eyes didn't leave his. Will you come again? She asked. The same question. But this time, it felt heavier, more real. Eamon looked at Meher, then back at Zara. Yes, a simple word, but it carried a promise. Zara smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. The doctor entered shortly after. Your family? He asked, looking at Eamon. Eamon hesitated just for a second, then said softly, Yes. The word felt strange, but right. The doctor nodded. She's lucky. It could have been worse. Eamon exhaled slowly. Eamon looked at Zara. I will. And in that moment, something shifted, not suddenly. Not loudly, but quietly, deeply, a bond had formed. One that neither of them expected, but both of them needed. That night, Eamon and Meher walked home together. The streets felt different. Not lighter, not easier, but meaningful. Baba, Meher said softly. Yes? She called you, Eamon nodded. She chose you. He stopped walking because those words carried a truth he wasn't ready to face. Maybe, Meher continued, Allah sent her, but for the first time, also full of something else. Possibility. Pause. Slow emotional fade, cliffhanger, the next few days. Eamon and Meher visited Zara regularly. Everything felt like it was slowly falling into place. Until one evening. A man walked into Zara's hospital room, well-dressed, confident, familiar. Zara's face turned pale. And she whispered, You shouldn't be here. Eamon froze, because he realized this story wasn't over. It was just getting started. The hospital room was silent, too silent. A silence that pressed against the walls, against the heart. Against every breath Eamon took, the door creaked open slowly, and there he was. A man in his late 30s, sharp suit, polished shoes. Confident posture, eyes that had once belonged to Zara alone. Eamon's chest tightened. His grip on Meher's hand became instinctively protective. Zara's face drained of color. Her lips parted slightly. She whispered, barely audible. "You shouldn't be here." The man smiled faintly. "But it wasn't warm. It was calculated." "I thought I'd find you here," he said smoothly. Eamon's mind raced. Who was he? A rival? A past love? Or something worse? Zara's hand reached out, trembling. "Eamon. Just, please." But the man ignored her plea. He stepped closer. "I thought maybe you'd forgotten me," he said, his voice low but taunting. Zara flinched. Eamon's chest tightened further. Every instinct screamed to protect her, to protect Meher. "Who is he?" Meher asked softly, looking up at Eamon with wide, innocent eyes. Eamon hesitated. Truthfully, he didn't know yet. Zara's eyes met his. She exhaled slowly. "It's someone from my past. Someone I never expected to see again." Eamon nodded slowly. He didn't speak, because words weren't enough. Not now. The man continued, ignoring Eamon's presence. "You disappeared without a word," he said, addressing Zara. "Left me wondering why. Left me wondering if I mattered at all." Zara's hand trembled against the bedsheet. I didn't have a choice," she whispered. "You always have a choice," he shot back sharply. Eamon stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "Stop!" The man turned slowly toward him. "And you are—" he asked, voice dripping curiosity. Eamon's jaw tightened. "My name is Eamon," he said calmly. "And I don't think you belong here." Zara looked at Eamon, then back at the man. A silent battle of emotions passing through her eyes. Fear, anxiety, past love, comfort, and something new. Meher tugged on Eamon's sleeve. "Baba," she looked scared. Eamon knelt beside her. "Yes," he said softly, "but we will take care of her." No matter what, the man's expression shifted slightly. Frustration creeping into his calm exterior. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "Zara, I still love you. I never stopped." Eamon's heart skipped a beat. He knew this would happen. Some past loves never die easily. Zara closed her eyes, took a deep breath. "Asen, it's over," she said firmly. Eamon felt a warmth in his chest. The sound of her voice, decisive, clear, freeing. The man's expression changed to disbelief. "Over? After everything? After all these years?" Zara opened her eyes slowly. Her gaze met Eamon's, and for the first time, Eamon saw her fully. Not the woman lying weak in a hospital bed, not the stranger at the park, but Zara. The woman who had survived loss, who had chosen life, and who now had a chance to love again, on her own terms. "I have a new life now," she said softly, "and it isn't with you." The man's jaw clenched. He stepped back slowly, defeated. Eamon exhaled slowly. It wasn't over yet, but it was enough. Meher looked up at Zara. "Are you going to stay now?" she asked softly. Zara smiled faintly. "Yes, if Eamon lets me." Eamon's heart ached. He had loved and lost. He had carried pain for years. He had never imagined a future like this. A silent promise. "Then, let's try," he said quietly. Tears formed in Zara's eyes, not from fear, not from sadness, but from relief. Meher laughed softly, hugging Zara's hand. "I knew it," she said. "I told Baba you'd be nice." Eamon smiled faintly. For the first time in years, freely, genuinely. Over the next days, they spent time together, visiting Zara in the hospital. Small walks in the garden when she was able. Simple conversations that carried weight. Eamon realized something. Love doesn't always start with fireworks. Sometimes it starts with small moments, moments of trust, moments of presence, moments of vulnerability. Zara laughed again, a real laugh. And Eamon realized he had forgotten what that sounded like. Meher, of course, thrived in this new world, her little heart full of hope and excitement. She would bring flowers from the garden. She would ask Zara to read stories, and she would look at Eamon and smile, a smile full of certainty that some things in life meant to be. Eamon learned slowly how to be a father, and how to be a man who could trust again. He wasn't perfect. He still had scars. He still carried the memory of Sana, but now, the scars didn't define him entirely. And Zara, she discovered something too, that life could be gentle again, that it was possible to open your heart and be safe. That sometimes love comes quietly, through the laughter of a child, through the warmth of a stranger who becomes family. Weeks passed, the hospital stay ended. They returned home together. A small, rented apartment that had once felt empty, now filled with laughter, small routines, and quiet love. Eamon cooked dinner while Meher helped set the table. Zara washed vegetables with a small smile. The world outside was still harsh. Money was still tight. Life was still a challenge. But inside they had created something stronger than fear. One evening, Eamon sat on the balcony. Meher sleeping inside, Zara beside him with a warm cup of tea. He looked at her. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked softly. Zara shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I never imagined life could feel like this." "But it does." Eamon took a deep breath. "I didn't think I could smile again," he admitted. Zara placed her hand on his. "Sometimes all it takes is one moment," she said softly. "One small moment to change everything," Eamon smiled faintly. "Yes," he said, "one small moment, and that moment was Meher, a child who understood love better than anyone. A child who whispered words that healed hearts. A child who reminded them both that even in the darkest nights, hope can find its way." Days turned into months, and slowly life became a rhythm they shared. Morning walks in the park, evening dinners, small celebrations, evenings of quiet laughter, and bedtime stories that were read 3 times instead of 1. Because Meher demanded it, Eamon realized something important. That happiness isn't sudden, it isn't loud, it's quiet, it's steady. It's being present, being seen, being held, even when you feel unworthy. And Zara, she discovered that love isn't about perfection. It isn't about the past. It's about presence, about showing up, about choosing each other every day, even after pain. One evening, as they all sat together watching the sunset, Eamon realized that the life he had feared was over, and the life he had dreamed of was only beginning. Meher whispered softly, "Baba, I was right." Eamon laughed softly, holding her close. "Yes, Beta, you were right." Zara leaned against him. And for the first time in years, Eamon felt whole, because sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through a whispered wish, through a hand held tight, through a life shared together, one day at a time. And as the sun disappeared behind the horizon, Eamon, Zara, and Meher sat together, 3 hearts once broken, now mending. A family formed from hope, courage, and the small, powerful moments that change everything. Meher let go of his hand, just like that. 1 second she was beside him, her tiny fingers wrapped safely around his. And the next, she was running, Meher. Eamon's voice broke through the quiet air of the park, but it was too late. Her small feet rushed across the uneven grass, her hair bouncing with every step, her heart leading the way, without fear, without doubt, straight toward the woman. Eamon's chest tightened. His legs felt heavy for a moment, like something inside him didn't want him to move, but then fear took over. And he followed. "No, no, what are you doing?" he whispered under his breath. Not angry, just terrified, because some moments in life you can't undo. Meher finally stopped in front of the woman, breathing slightly fast, her cheeks flushed pink, her eyes shining with something pure. The woman looked up, surprised at first, then soft. "Yes?" she said gently. Meher didn't hesitate, didn't look back, didn't second guess, but it slowed down enough for every heartbeat to feel louder. Eamon reached them just then, out of breath, his face pale. I'm so sorry," he said quickly, placing a hand on Meher's shoulder. "She's just a child. She doesn't understand." But the woman didn't look at him. Not yet. Her eyes remained on Meher. There was no laughter. No awkward smile, no dismissal, just stillness. And something deeper. What's your name? She asked softly. Meher, the little girl replied. And why do you want me as your mom, Meher? Eamon felt his heart drop. He wanted to stop this. He should stop this, but something in the woman's voice made him stay quiet. Meher thought for a second, then said simply, Because you look kind. The woman's lips parted slightly. And my Baba? Meher continued, pointing at Eamon. He looked sad. Eamon closed his eyes. Just for a second, there it was. The truth from the purest mouth. He doesn't smile much, Meher added softly. But I think, if you come, he will. Silence again. The kind that feels heavy, but not uncomfortable. The woman finally looked at Eamon, really looked at him. And for the first time, he didn't look away, because there was nowhere left to hide. I'm sorry, Eamon said again, quieter this time. She didn't mean to. She meant every word. Her voice wasn't harsh. It was calm, certain. Eamon froze. I'm Zara, she said, shifting her gaze between him and Meher. Eamon nodded slightly. Eamon? Another pause. Zara looked back at Meher. Do you always say what's in your heart? Meher nodded proudly. Yes. Zara smiled. A small one, but real. That's a rare thing, she whispered. Eamon felt something unfamiliar move inside his chest. Hope? Fear? Maybe both. I should take her home, he said finally. But Meher didn't move. She gently held Zara's hand. Please don't go, she said. Eamon's breath hitched. Meher. He said softly, trying to pull her back. But Zara didn't let go either. It wasn't a tight grip, just a connection. I'm not going anywhere, Zara said calmly. Something about those words felt heavier than they should. They sat on the bench, all three of them, awkward at first. Silent, children playing in the background. Leaves rustling gently in the breeze. So, Zara began softly, looking at Eamon. You come here often? Eamon shook his head. No, not really. First time? She asked. He nodded. A small smile touched her lips. Same, another coincidence, or maybe not. Meher sat between them, swinging her legs happily, like she had just fixed something broken in the world. What do you do? Zara asked after a pause. I'm a mechanic, Eamon replied simply. No hesitation, no shame, just truth. Zara nodded. That's honest work. Eamon looked at her. Slightly surprised, most people didn't say that. And you? He asked. I'm a doctor, Eamon blinked. Of course she was. It made sense. Her calmness, her presence, their worlds were completely different. You help people, Meher said, looking up at Zara with admiration. Zara smiled. I try. Then you can help my Baba too, Meher added innocently. Eamon almost laughed, almost. Zara didn't. How? She asked gently. Meher leaned closer and whispered, He has pain here. She placed her tiny hand on her chest. Zara's expression softened. And medicine doesn't work on it, Meher added. Eamon looked away. He couldn't handle this, not like this, not in front of a stranger. I think we should go, he said quietly, standing up. But before he could take a step, Eamon stopped. It needs time, she continued. And sometimes, it needs people. He slowly turned back. Their eyes met again. And for the first time, there was no fear in his gaze. Just vulnerability. I had someone once, Zara said softly. Eamon didn't expect that. I was supposed to get married, she continued. The air shifted, but he left, she said. No explanation, no goodbye. Meher frowned. That's bad. Zara smiled faintly. Yes, it was. Eamon didn't speak. Because he understood something in that moment. Pain recognizes pain. Different stories, same feeling. And after that, Zara continued, I stopped believing in things like this. She gestured lightly between them. Us? Meher asked. Zara laughed softly. Yes. U.S.? Eamon exhaled slowly. So why are you here? He asked quietly. Zara looked around the park at the children. At the sky. I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe I was meant to be. Silence, but this time it wasn't empty, it was full. The sun began to dip again, painting everything in golden light. Time had passed without them noticing. I have to go, Zara said softly, standing up. Meher's smile faded instantly. Will you come again? She asked quickly. Zara looked at her. Then at Ayman, a question hung in the air. Ayman hesitated, then nodded. Yes, he said quietly. Zara smiled. I will. She turned to leave, but after a few steps, she stopped, turned back, and said something that neither of them expected. Tomorrow. Then she walked away. Meher jumped with excitement. Baba, she said tomorrow. Ayman didn't respond immediately, because something inside him had already started changing. Something he had locked away for years was slowly opening. That night, Meher fell asleep with the biggest smile on her face. Ayman sat beside her, watching her. You deserve this, he whispered. But then his expression changed. What if it doesn't last? He murmured. What if this is just another loss waiting to happen? Fear crept back in. Because hope always comes with risk across the city? Zara stood in front of her mirror, looking at herself. You said tomorrow? She whispered. Her reflection didn't answer, but her heart did. Why does it feel like something important is about to happen? Pause, slow fade, cliffhanger. The next day, Ayman and Meher reached the park early. They waited and waited, but Zara didn't come. Hours passed. The sun began to set again. And just when Meher's eyes started to fill with tears, Ayman received a phone call from an unknown number. He answered, and what he heard next made his entire body go cold.